From Castle Rexworth and the Rexworth Estates, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. My name is Rexworth, Lord Rexworth, and I am joined once again by Zoe the Demon Fox. Zoe, welcome.
Hello.
Good to see you as always. And we are going tonight to be picking up where we left off with the live reading of Zoe's book, The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls. It's been quite an interesting read so far, and the plot twists and the scheming and the conniving and all of the behind the scenes drama and power plays really starting to get interesting now that we're as we get closer to the middle of the book. So, if you haven't, if you missed any of the streams, do go back and watch the VODs on either my channel or on Zoe's. Zoe's Twitch handle is actually tagged in the stream description here on my side of stream. So please do give her a follow.
I forgot something.
What's that?
I knew I forgot something.
What did you forget?
Linking you in the description.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
It's fixed. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So please do go follow Zoe the Demon Fox, and also, if you haven't already, do give me a follow as well, because I'm quite close to hitting a follow goal. We're at gosh, where are we at right now? 337 follows out of a goal of 340. So we are very close, nobles. So please do tell people about me, and do encourage them if you would. And if you haven't already, do tap that follow button. That way you can stay up to date and get notifications whenever I go live here on Twitch. And of course, I'm also on multiple other platforms. Go ahead and plug the links here. All links available at lordrexworth.com, the website lordrexworth.com. You can also keep in touch with my doings on Twitter, twitter.com/lordrexworth. Got a Discord server. If you are age 18 or older, you're welcome to join the Castle Rexworth Discord. The link is there in my chat. Then also got the Throne page, throne.com/Lord Rexworth. Gifts always appreciated, but never required, of course. Zoe, what would you like to plug?
Just my card again, which I also pinned in my chat.
Excellent. Yes, please make sure that you are following both of us across all platforms, because we not only stream across multiple platforms, we also upload content across multiple platforms. Everything from our VODs to even some original content, such as my clips and YouTube shorts, and also the latest episodes of the Lord Rexworth podcast. If you haven't already, do check out episode 3, where I interview my colleague and a very dear friend of mine, Nobuyuki Volpe, on how to make the trend your friend as a content creator. It was a very fascinating conversation, about just 90 minutes of us just exploring what was seen on the horizon for 2024, but also just sort of looking back on what we've encountered as some certain formulas and certain keys to one's success as a content creator. A fascinating conversation. So please do check it out on YouTube. Also available on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into chapter 22, That Which Is Broken, in The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls. Salem was unable to tutor Styx on her powers the next day, as Zoe had become surprisingly active around Darkstone and spending as much time as she could with the Watcher. By day, and joined quite often by Evelyn and sometimes Eris, Styx went along with whatever activities Zoe dragged them into, yet nagged by the falseness of Zoe's true feelings. By night, the Saint of Madness would sneak into Darkstone, providing soul contracts and limited news on the goings-on outside of Darkstone. As days turned to weeks, the realms seemed to have gone silent, as dark schemes were pursued like cogs in a machine, away from prying eyes. The most major bit of news Salem brought was of Lilith's disappearance, that, through clever scheming, had been blamed on Argos. It wasn't hard to pin things on Argos, as the disappearance of his sister had led to him shirking his duties as the Saint of Blades and going on a one-man crusade to find her. He'd slaughtered quite a few angels and demons on his quest so far, and according to Salem, Abbott Eternal, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. Hello, Dawn. Good to see you. We were just getting started here with our reading of The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls. It's a book written by Zoe the Demon Fox, whom I'm collabing with tonight. Raiders, welcome in. Let me get you a shout-out, Abbott. Let's see just what you were up to today with stream. Oh, playing Final Fantasy XIV online. Fantastic. Everybody, do go follow Abbott if you haven't already. One of my gen mates and colleagues at Project Estadia. But yeah, how was it? Did you have a good stream? I've heard a lot of good things about Final Fantasy XIV. It does sound like ever so fun. But thank you all. Thank you, Raiders, so much for joining, and welcome into some chill vibes here as we do some reading ASMR of an original work by Zoe the Demon Fox. Kitku VT, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you so much. You're now a noble. Welcome to Castle Rexworth, and welcome all Raiders. If this is your first time, my name is Lord Rexworth. I'm an English nobleman VTuber and a member of Project Estadia, and I'm joined by Zoe the Demon Fox, a member of the Moonlighters, who is a Fox VTuber, owner of an absolutely smashing nightclub, and she's really one hell of an author, because this is just an absolutely brilliant work that she has crafted here, and we are having the best time each week reading through several chapters in one sitting. Ah, me, the gremlin amongst the nobility. This certainly could never go wrong. What could possibly go wrong, right? Genevieve, welcome into chat. Welcome in. Right, let's see. Let me just pick up where... Let's just take that paragraph from the top. The most major bit of news Salem brought was of Lilith's disappearance, that through clever scheming had been blamed on Argos. It wasn't hard to pin things on Argos, as the disappearance of his sister had led to him shirking his duties as a Saint of Blades and going on a one-man crusade to find her. He'd slaughtered quite a few angels and demons on his quest so far, and according to Salem, Deimos and Ignis had barely fought him off a few times as of recent. Styx knew where both angels were, and of course Leda and Lilith both were in Melisco, dwelling in the same home, utterly ignorant to Argos' single-minded objective. As the weeks began to turn into a month, Salem had begun bringing more soul contracts from Blackrock, and Styx began to wonder if he sought for her to control the guild. She could see the advantages of it. A private army of mortals and control over the crypt. Of course, Zoe had slowly been stealing artifacts from the guild and placing them in Darkstone's own vault, but still. Styx groggily awoke in the bed she shared with Zoe and found herself alone with a note on the pillow. She skimmed it and then smiled softly.
So, how are we going to do this?
Styx stood with her hands on her hips in the sand-coated training grounds just outside Darkstone's main keep. It's still within the walls of the floating castle. Salem paced around in front of her, thinking, I think we should begin with your control over the soul flame. Styx blinked, her eyes regaining the color, and snapped her fingers. A small fire ignited in her hands, ever shifting as purple and green fought for dominance. Salem observed the flame for a few moments. Can you ignite your right hand? Styx shook her head.
I've tried before. Can't.
Salem nodded, rubbing his chin. Do you trust me, my queen? Styx nodded without hesitation.
Of course.
A bound and gagged human rose out of a pool of shadow and slumped over to the ground, squirming in fear.
Interesting ability, Salem.
I'm happy you've gotten so used to my antics that I can bring you a living, breathing human and you not question what in the nine hells I am doing. Six shook her head slightly.
If I had a gold coin for everything I questioned, I'd be rich right now. So what do you want me to do?
Salem kicked the human in the back. Stand up, mortal. The human fearfully wormed their way around until they were able to get up on their feet. They were dressed in the garb of a Midheimite noble. You've been thriving off soul contracts up to this point, but I think it's time you try using your actual abilities. Claim this man's soul the way you claim Phobos. Styx inhaled and walked forward, reaching out with her flaming hand and grasping the man's cheek. There was a slight sizzling sound, yet no mark marred the man's face as Styx pulled her hand back. The man had lost all his fear and stood idly. Styx could feel her connection to his soul as well. He immediately began to melt back into the ground, the bonds melting off of him as well. Congratulations, my queen. That was a banker from Midheim, your first agent in the Pact Breakers' capital. Styx rolled her eyes as she blinked them back to grey.
You could at least tell me that beforehand. You always let me read the contract signatures first.
Salem shrugged. There's another thing I'd like to test, if you'll indulge me, my queen. Styx stuffed her hands into her coat pockets.
You want me to, like, try to claim from a distance or something?
Salem shook his head, chuckling as he could see the mild excitement that Styx was trying to hide. As entertaining an idea that is, no. If you'll remember, we had a discussion about your healing abilities, how you healed from Misery's End within a week, and how you could heal Leda by claiming her soul. Styx nodded slowly. I wish to preface this by saying, she came to me first.
Wait, what?
Salem clapped his hands once, and Eris rose out of a shadow puddle this time. She smiled nervously and waved. Styx's eyes widened.
Salem, I can't heal a shattered mind, especially one you destroyed. Speaking of which...
She turned to Eris.
How... when did...
Eris stepped over to Styx and gently grasped her arm.
We came for a visit a few weeks ago. We saw you speaking to Salem. You seemed at ease and safe. We saw you igniting the papers, so we faced our fears and spoke to him.
Eris is not as delusional as Zoe to believe it possible for her sword blows to heal in a week. Eris hesitated for a moment.
We do not trust Salem, but we trust you, Styx.
The Watcher hesitated, then clenched her fists.
Eris, if I do this for you, there's no guarantee it'll work, but whether it does or doesn't...
Eris interrupted.
Won't tell Zoe. We know. Your power. You hide it from her. We understand. If there's a chance to be whole again, Styx, we want to try.
Styx breathed in silently.
Why can't you do it, Salem?
The Saint of Madness snorted. Oh, my queen, I create insanity, not cure it. I'm lucky that my own mind is already shattered into so many pieces it's practically whole again. Styx mumbled.
Points where you're immune to your own sword.
What was that?
Nothing.
Styx gave a big fake smile, then sighed and took Eris's hands, staring into her single eye and the black void of her other socket.
Eris, are you absolutely sure about this? We're broken, Styx. What point is there if not to try?
Styx exhaled, igniting the soul flame in her hand and allowing Green to hold dominance as she gently gripped Eris's shoulder.
I'm not sure how this will work without claiming your soul. I want to try it this way at least.
Eris fidgeted in slight discomfort, but she did not start screaming or anything, which reassured the Watcher. My queen, is it working? It was rare to see Salem actually worried about someone other than himself.
I am not sure.
Edis closed her eye tightly for a moment as the soul flame intensified, then let out a sigh as Styx let go of her shoulder.
How do you feel, Eris?
The small demon was silent for a few moments.
It didn't work, but we feel
Edis shrugged.
feverish.
Styx felt butterflies in her stomach.
Are you okay?
Edis shook her head slightly. She'd broken out in a cold sweat.
You don't know. Why is it so hot?
Edis shielded her eye and looked up at Lunatus Solatus, shining brightly with daylight and warmth. Styx looked fearfully at Salem, who stepped over to Edis.
Salem, do me a favor. Zoe will be back any minute. Everyone is probably still at my cabin. Take Eris there and have Ev keep an eye on her.
My queen, is that wise?
Do it, Salem!
He bowed before he and Edis melted into puddles of shadow. The last thing Styx heard was Edis start to scream. By the obsidian throne, the high throne, the fucking god of nothing himself. What did she do to poor Edis? Styx grabbed her left hand. The soul flame snuffed, and her eyes gray.
If I hurt her.
She slapped herself. Standing there and panicking would help no one. What kind of queen screamed into the nothingness, begging for aid that wouldn't come? She quickly entered the keep and headed straight for the library. This was a setback, but Eris would probably be okay. No. She would definitely be okay. Chapter 23. Soul Blight. Styx was jolted awake and nearly knocked her chair over as she sat up. Zoe laughed.
You're drooling on my books, Styx.
The Watcher looked down. She had fallen asleep trying to find some answers to Eris's condition. Styx wiped her mouth and smiled nervously. Best to act like nothing was wrong.
Sorry. Guess I put myself to sleep.
Zoe manifested a wrapped object that was long and thicker at one end, and held it out.
Here, the gift.
Styx took up and took it gently, starting to rip away at the paper.
I know it's a little early. It's only Decima's 5th. But Rise finished it, so...
Zoe shrugged and looked away with a nervous smile.
I don't know. I thought it'd be cool. And it can complement your pistol.
Styx finished removing the paper and her eyes widened. She gripped the handle made of dark wood with metal reinforcement. Up at the top, a cog-shaped hinge held a blade in place, pointed downward. It seemed like a bardiche. But that hinge...
Rise took her sweet-ass time with it. I was surprised she finished early. She's been drinking a lot more and hanging out with Da Vinci. Not sure why human is of interest to her, but...
Styx spoke over her.
I like it.
Zoe was silent for a second, then smirked.
You haven't seen all its tricks yet.
She had gently grasped Styx's hand and guided her fingers to a button near one of the gripping points. Styx pushed the button with her thumb and gasped as the hinge activated, arcing the blade upward. It was a foldable scythe. Styx stared in awe and carefully touched the shiny silver blade.
I know it doesn't look like it, but the scythe blade is dark obsidian. Rise worked her magic as usual. On top of that, I reinforced it with some black warpstone. Not even Phobos can break it.
Styx opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. Zoe was the queen of hell. It didn't come as a surprise. She could utilize black warpstone.
Oh, I made sure Rise put your emblem on it. You know, the one that's on all your coins.
Zoe pointed excitedly at the sigil on the cog hinge. A green flame and a purple flame, setting to the sides of a large flame that seemed as if it shifted between the two colors.
The Soul Flame. Oh, is that what it's called? Awesome. Why the sun desire to get me another weapon, though?
Zoe hesitated and scratched the back of her head.
Well, I thought a lot about that thing you told me long ago. That wild animal attack. And then when we were getting my sword, that Korath guy.
Styx genuinely liked the gift, but at the same time, it felt like a solid affirmation that no, Zoe would not come to her aid. she would have to learn by herself. Not to mention this was a scythe, a rarely used weapon. Did Zoe think so little of her that she was supposed to rely on a weapon that not even an opponent would know how to deal with?
I love it, Z. I really do.
Styx returned it to its bodish form and held it idly, looking it over.
What you gonna name it? Huh?
Zoe giggled.
Come on, Styx. All the best weapons have names. Misery's End, Dawn's Grace, Dawn's Edge, etc.
Styx thought for a few moments.
Soul Blight.
Zoe grinned.
I like it.
Zoe let out an exaggerated yawn.
Ooh, I'm beat. Does your cold bed need a partner?
Zoe smiled sheepishly.
Not tonight, Styx. Sorry. But hey, I'll see you upstairs.
Styx smiled and waved as Zoe left the library and then began to frown. She wasn't sure why she'd even tried. With a sigh, Styx walked out into the hall. She figured she'd take the scythe down to the training grounds and leave it in the weapon shack. Maybe Evelyn could try to teach her how to use it if Zoe left. Salem sighed, head in hands, as the dark saints argued around him. Lilith had left long ago, safely hiding out in Meliska with her husband, yet Deimos had also disappeared. He had left a message saying something about seeking out the Sword Saint. Salem hadn't the faintest idea who the hell that could possibly be. He was more concerned about Eris, all things considered. Dropping her off the cabin had required much care to imply that someone did bring Eris there, but that it wasn't him specifically. He sighed. The yelling was beginning to irritate him.
What fucking voice did I give Erebus? She's been Russian, hasn't she?
My streamer brain just doesn't remember. Was that one that I was voicing?
No, I was voicing Erebus. I remember that much.
Okay.
And I was also voicing Nox and you was Skeletor.
Ah!
Entering my beast here, Nox. The scheme is falling apart. I know, I'm going to fix it.
Erebus stood up from her chair, and Nox did as well.
Before or after Argos hunts us all down and kills us?
Ignis spoke up.
Viking. Viking demon.
Ah. What if we kill Petra? Nox shook his head.
Out of the question. Petra's tyrannical rule is what keeps the angels off our backs.
Ignis sighed. You know, if we were better at planning, we wouldn't be in this situation, Erebus. One little angel survives and boom, it's all gone sideways. Ignis laughed as he saw an actual tear on Erebus's pale cheek. Ignis sat up. You say you plan for every eventuality, schemer. So how did Leta's survival shit throw such a monumental screw-up into your plans?
Because one does not simply heal from fatal wounds and go disappear, Ignis.
Salem sat up. Ignis, the poor girl's been through enough. Leave her be.
Enough.
Silence filled the council chamber. Nox sat back down, resting his skull in his hands and exhaling.
I hope I didn't pick my mic. Erebus, if you can speak calmly, what are the most pressing matters that should probably be tended to?
Erebus wiped her eyes quickly and unfurled a scroll.
Due to Lara's disappearance, Argos is hunting for her. We all know he has already fought Ignis and Deimos on several occasions over the past months.
Her voice cracked and she cleared her throat a few times.
I looked into the Sword Saint. They're an ascended demon that studied under Argos. I think Deimos wants to enlist them to help against Argos.
Petra needs to rein in his damn dog. Ignis slammed a flaming fist against the table.
Also, as submitted by Salem, Cagliostro was spotted at Black Rock speaking with the Hell Queen. Seems his days as an observer have ended.
Nox nodded slowly.
Unsurprising. One of his precious books is in the guild's vault.
Oedipus started to speak again.
I know that we tend to ignore the Outlands, but King Zacharias of Ferris is gathering forces. It would appear that Asbestos inadvertently clued him into the location of the speaker and one of her own books.
Ignis rolled a small metal cylinder around in his teeth. If he comes south and attacks Blackrock, there's a lot of artifacts down in there. Salem chuckled. Nearly the entire guild was under Styx's control, and Zoe was still sneakily stealing artifacts to this day, unnoticed. I wouldn't worry about Ferris for now. We've underestimated Asbestos and his guild before. Ferris's weaponry hasn't seen proper maintenance in decades. I have the utmost faith Blackrock will endure if the Iron King does decide to come knocking. Nox sighed.
You're all dismissed.
Everyone bowed to Nox and took their respective exits. Salem stood outside the empty shack that had led underground to the council chamber and looked around the Shard district, the slums of Hell's Gate. It was amusing to him that they schemed so closely to Darkstone, as they were there in Hell's Gate itself. The Shard district was run down and decrepit, its homes mass-produced and blocky-shaped, conformed to fit the streets. Few demons wandered the streets, especially not at night, which made it a perfect meeting spot. Salem watched Oedipus walk out of the shack and start walking deeper into the district. Where are you headed, schemer?
Shut up, midget.
She walked faster and vanished around a corner. Salem chuckled. He heard flames, and a moment later, Ignis walked over to him. Salem tilted his head, and they walked into a dark alley. Ignis manifested his shield and pulled out a pile of soul contracts that were hidden in the divot under the grip. Salem slipped them all beneath his hat. Who are all these from? The Queen likes to know such things, you understand. Ignis looked around anxiously for a moment. The Smith Lords. The few that are still alive, anyway. Salem's lip twitched, wanting to curl into a sinister smile, but he wouldn't allow it. I seem to recall Nox ordering you and Phobos to kill them all. Ignis shook his head. Nox don't think in the long term. We wiped out the village and let the survivors run. Phobos understood my logic. The Smith Lords are some of the best demon smiths in hell next to the architect. Speaking of the architect, Salem nodded. I haven't spoken to her yet. Any other startling revelations you want to tell me? Ignis nodded once. I'd wager my life the other great families aren't so dead either. Salem chuckled. I do love a good betrayal story. Perhaps when all is done and we can step out of the shadows, we can hollow out Nox's skull and use it as a beer mug. Salem bowed. Farewell, Lord Ignis. I'll expect some more contracts from you later. He tipped his hat and began to melt into the ground. May our souls endure and deny all invitations to the river of death. Yeah, whatever. May the river outflow with those accept it. He seemed to burst into flame, then vanished. His own unique teleportation. It was a minor thing, but Salem did quite like the unique exchange Styx had created. He began to rise out of a shadow puddle on a small dirt path that led to Styx's cabin and began walking. For Styx's sake, he figured he should check on Eris of his own accord.
Stop right there, you bastard.
Salem held his hands up and chuckled, turning to the sword in his face and looking up at the black winged fallen. Why, Lady Calico, quite the chance meeting. How are you? He purposely let his hat shift, a soul contract falling out and onto the ground. Calico's eyebrows raised.
Thank you for searching Hydric, Cassie. What is that?
I'm more than willing to explain, Lady Calico, but perhaps we should go sit down first. This would be interesting. Chapter 24. A Lie Discovered. Styx was always used to a feeling of mild but tolerable cold. It was an unfortunate side effect of the River of Souls and her being a watcher. It was one of the reasons she always wore a trench coat. Once upon a time she'd found that around Zoe. she felt warmth again. But over time, that warmth faded back into its usual chill. Styx stared at Zoe's back in bed and sighed. It always interested Styx how Zoe had ran a kingdom while acting so carefree. Then again, Styx had either overlooked or been oblivious to the many of the atrocities that Zoe had committed as queen. She definitely liked being queen, though, and hell thrived under her rule. As far as Styx could tell, anyway. The Watcher remembered something a soul in the river had told her once. Those who don't want to rule tend to make the best rulers. They don't seek power. They're unsure what to do with it. It humbles them, and they're unlikely to do anything terrible with it. Styx sighed. She hesitated for a moment, reaching out to put an arm around Zoe, but pulled away and turned onto her other side. Styx had resigned herself to the fact the chill would never go away. Here, with the woman she thought was her beloved, she felt colder than usual. Styx sat idly with her feet up on the feasting table, twirling the raven crown on her finger and snacking on a devil's dough biscuit. The warpstone chandelier above kept the room brightly lit. Evelyn and Zoe sat near her, digging into their own food. Evelyn swallowed heavily and laughed.
Damn, Zoe, were you always such a good cook?
The former queen sat up a bit and smirked.
Yep. After seeing so many human nobles get poisoned, I'd start cooking my own meals. Probably why Nox resorted to an outright attack instead of a subtler method trying to kill me.
Styx put down the raven crown and sat up.
You never struck me as the careful type, Z.
Zoe laughed and grinned.
Of course not. I have the fastest regeneration of all demon kind. Little sword neck here, missing arm there. Give me about 20 minutes and I'll be right as rain.
Evelyn reached across the table and picked up the raven crown.
So this is the legendary crown that belonged to the Queen of the Fallen, huh?
Zoe nodded.
Tireless, though. Just a trinket.
Out of nowhere, Evelyn put it on Styx's head, then smiled.
Looks good on you. You think so?
Zoe rubbed her chin for a moment.
You know, Ev's got a point. It does look good. Almost like it belongs there.
Zoe giggled and went back to eating.
When we're done, let's head to the training ground. I want to see that scythe of yours in action, Styx. Oh, sure.
Not soon after, the trio stood out in the sand. Evelyn crushed a warpstone and pulled out Pox. Styx grabbed Soul Blight with both hands, suddenly nervous. Zoe manifested Hellbringer and rested the blade on her shoulder.
Alright. I'm gonna play defensively. Let you experiment a little bit. Want me to try some stuff? The scythe is basically just a spear with a crooked blade on it.
Zoe stared at the Fallen for a moment.
But you just crushed a warpstone.
Evelyn waved a dismissive hand.
Whatever, if you want to get your ass kicked.
Zoe grinned.
That's a show I'm willing to watch.
She took a few steps back to give the two space. Styx took a deep breath.
Ready?
Evelyn grinned mischievously.
Clock's nigh already. Strike me, Watcher.
Styx exhaled softly, then lunged forward, keeping a scythe folded for now. Even under the influence, Evelyn proved quite capable at deflecting blows, and for a handle made out of an organic corruptive substance, Pox was also quite strong. After a bit, Styx mixed up her swings a bit, then swung horizontally. Evelyn held Pox up vertically, but with a button press, the scythe blade deployed and ended up behind the Fallen, even as Pox and Soulblight's hilts banged together. Styx yanked hard, simultaneously reaching into her trench coat, and in the next moment, Evelyn was very close with a gun pressed to her head. Styx spoke softly. They stared into each other's eyes for a few moments, until Zoe cleared her throat. Styx felt herself blushing as she turned away from the other two.
I like the move, Styx, but I don't think holding someone kissing distance is gonna stop them from shinking you. I don't know, Z. Think if someone pulled me in like that and kissed me, I'd stop fighting.
Zoe snorted.
Like that one time? That wasn't a fight.
Both of them seemed to realize the implications of what they were saying and switched topics. By Zoe quickly lunging towards the Fallen.
Think fast, Angel.
Styx smiled softly, watching the two brawl for a few moments. She became lost in thought. as she looked down at her left hand. That move she used on Evelyn. Maybe she could use it for bringing people in range to claim their souls. In the middle of battle, if she claimed someone, they would probably immediately turncoat to her side.
Sticks. Tell the Sticks.
The Watcher looked up to see Evelyn waving a hand in front of her eyes.
Welcome back. What you thinking about? Oh,
Styx shrugged.
ideas for fighting moves.
Evelyn nodded slowly. Zoe walked over to them, drinking water from a flask.
Stats are pretty rare weapons. You may not even need that many moves.
She threw the flask to Evelyn, who caught it and took a swig before giving it to Styx.
I can spar with you for another hour or two. I've got some collections to make.
Styx looked down at Evelyn's pouch, then back into the Fallen's yellow eyes. Evelyn shrugged and looked away.
What? I crushed my last one.
Styx giggled softly.
Whatever. Get your spear. Let's go again.
Styx laid in bed by herself as Lunatus lit up hell with moonlight. Zoe had gone off to try grabbing more trinkets from the guild, and Salem had interestingly not shown up that night. Styx sighed, pulling the red hell silk blankets tighter around her body. Stupid chills.
If someone pulled me in like that and kissed me, I'd stop fighting. Like that one time? That wasn't a fight.
They were hiding something from her. Styx briefly wondered if she even wanted to know. With a sigh, she closed her eyes and drifted into an uneasy sleep. Chapter 25. The Game of Lies.
Stop right there, you bastard.
Lady Calico, quite the chance meeting. How are you?
What's that?
I'm more than willing to explain, Lady Calico, but perhaps we should go sit down first. Salem had to admit, while he knew it was a possibility and was ready for it, he had not at all expected Calico to allow him to enter Styx's cabin. He stood idly in the middle of the main room. Judging by how quickly Calico had gone off into one of the Watcher's spare bedrooms, Salem wagered that either Evelyn or one of Alana's spiders had informed the High Saint about Edis's condition. He chuckled to himself. He had a dreadful habit of not keeping an eye out for Calico's spy master, and wondered what she knew. Salem turned round, hands clasped behind his back, as he heard Calico close a door and walk back into the main room, grasping her arm in a nervous way. How is she? Calico frowned at him.
Why do you care?
Salem held his arms out to the sides. Why else would I come here, Lady Calico? Styx is at Darkstone. Calico stared at him warily for a moment until he sat down and patted the couch position next to him. I told you I would explain, did I not? Do not look at me like that. He idly tossed the soul contract he dropped onto the table. The Fallen hesitated for a moment before sitting in the nearby chair and crossing her arms.
Alright. Start talking.
Salem chuckled. Patient saint of change. He cleared his throat, resting his hands on his legs. I'm sure little Alana's spiders saw me coming here. I wagered she'd even seen me speaking with Styx. Am I incorrect? Calico nodded slowly.
I didn't know the second part, but the first part, yes.
As much as Calico wanted to ask, she knew how Salem operated well enough to know he'd get to it. You know, the game of lies is one of my favorite games to play. The stories that can come of it, the identities that can be created from it. However, there comes a point where such stories must be forgotten. If we play the game too long, we forget who we are. At Calico's confusion, Salem clasped his hands together. Alexandria, I will tell you whatever you want to know. But for Styx's sake, how is Eris? The genuine concern in his voice, the fact he used her first name, gave the angel pause. There was no aura of smugness. She couldn't sense any ulterior motive. What he said about the game of lies made sudden sense.
She's really sick. Evelyn and I have been trading out to keep watch on her. Kinda why I intercepted you in the first place. I'm worried about her. I've never seen a sickness like this.
Styx is deeply worried as well. Salem took a deep breath. Lady Calico, it is time I explain things. He indicated the paper on the table. That is a soul contract. The angel looked confused.
Why are you carrying around soul contracts? The soul aspect demons are extinct.
She paused, eyes widening.
Styx is a demon of Myrkur.
Salem nodded. I am curious how you came to realize that.
I've dwelled in hell for a long time, Salem. I pick up on things, and Alana has been a big help.
Salem nodded. Indeed. Styx is the last surviving demon of a kind, manifested with the aspect of souls. These contracts I hide beneath my hat are for her. Salem manifested 2 goblets on the table and pushed one towards Calico. Drink? Calico hesitated and took a sip. It was just water. Salem took a sip from his own. Tell me, Calico, if your rebellion against Petra had succeeded, who would have taken the high throne? Calico hesitated for a moment.
I would have temporarily taken it, helped stamp out every last remnant of Petra's tyranny, then relinquished it to someone else.
For the betterment of heaven, right?
Yes? What are you getting at?
Salem took another sip of water. Zoe is unfit to continue to rule hell. The atrocities and transgressions she has committed may continue to commit now that her memory has returned. Salem took a breath. There's a reason Nox staged the coup to overthrow her, yet Nox is also unfit to rule our Dark Kingdom. None of the Dark Saints are, myself included. However, for a very long time, I have observed the Watcher of the River, last of the Soul Demons. I have concluded that she is a better fit than any other I've observed.
Does she even want to rule?
Salem chuckled. Of course not. That's why she's a good fit. Besides, I've been teaching her about myself and shedding that knowledge I can to prepare her for the betterment of hell. Midas Lockhart, welcome in, welcome in. Nice to see you, my lord. Nice to see you too, sir. Very good to see you. And Resort, welcome in as well. Calico seemed to realize something.
Lara and Lilith.
Signed soul contracts, willingly, I might add, and they have been claimed by Styx. They are not missing, as you would be led to believe. They are sharing Lilith's home in Melisco, the last place anyone would look for them. Calico rested her head in her hands, processing this.
Lara was dying of mortal wounds.
And by signing away her soul, Styx was able to heal her. He's more powerful than she could ever realize, and I theorize her connection to the river has been siphoning energy from the essence of Apocalypse.
Right. That's still hidden there, I suppose.
Calico sat up.
The soul claiming is...
She also has Grimnir's soul. He was the first, she claimed. Any fears you may have about all this, look to him, your friend, and tell me what you think. Calico hesitated. She need not even hold these souls permanently. She simply requires their strength and support until I can assist her to take the Obsidian Throne. After that, she can release them again. I firmly believe she'll make a great queen. And I know you believe that too. Calico stood up, gripping her arm again.
I'm not going to give her my soul, but I'll support her.
Styx will be deeply grateful to hear of it. Salem stood as well. I must be off. Bring these contracts to my queen, then.
Salem, wait.
Calico glanced toward the closed door she'd come out of earlier.
If Styx took Eris's soul, Would she get better?
Salem nodded without hesitation. I believe she would. However, her illness was caused by Styx in the first place.
What?
Salem held up a hand. Lady Calico, Eris asked her to heal her broken mind. You and I both know the Watcher well enough, and I'm sure you realize how difficult all this is. She tried to heal Eris without claiming her soul. I'll do my best to pull her out of her fear and help Eris. Till then, on her behalf, I request you and Evelyn continue to watch over the poor demon. Calico nodded slowly. Oh, and one more thing. All those who have given their souls to Styx may have free will, but are bound not to speak of certain things for obvious reasons. If you want Grimnir's free opinion of matters, simply say to him, have you ever dipped a finger into the river of death? And he will know you're trustworthy. Calico nodded. She looked away.
Alright, slight pause. Cassia's asking, or rather saying, she's angry because everyone's turning against Zoe because of what she might do, despite hell thriving under her reign. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts, I'm just fascinated by this conniving and all of this manipulation going on behind the scenes, and just all seems to be the machinations of Salem. I mean, it all goes back to him, doesn't it?
All roads lead to Salem.
Yeah, I love this. This is like a, gosh, I don't know, part like criminal mastermind, part just political genius. I mean, he's like everything. I think of characters like, I mentioned that he does have that, give off a vibe of an Elam Geddick from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but I also pick up a bit of Raymond Reddington from The Blacklist, and even like a darker, more sinister version of Sir Humphrey Appleby from Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. I mean, all of these different qualities of these people who are just, they're masterminds, and yeah, that really seems to be what's going on here. I mean, it just, all roads, like you said, lead back to Salem, and perhaps it's not fair that everyone is turning against Zoe, but I don't know.
Well, it's things you've seen versus things you haven't seen. Zoe started the ancient war.
I'd like to think that there's still a trick or two up Zoe's sleeve that we just haven't seen yet.
This book is called The Realm of Tale of Blood and Soul. It's definitely not jazz. I wrote this.
Yes, and I must say again, Zoe, this is excellent. I'm loving all of this. Let's see, where were we?
I know where we are. Never thought I'd say this, Salem, but I think I trust you.
Salem chuckled. Oh, believe me, this is new for me as well. Not even mentioning the Watcher. He melted into the floor with a formal wave. Calico slumped back into her chair and looked off to the side.
A better tomorrow for hell. Maybe afterwards you could help me get rid of Petra, huh, Styx?
Chapter 26. Deprecation. A few days later, Zoe had decided to go on a small trip. Where she was going and what she was doing, she refused to tell the Watcher. A small conversation of a quiet dinner in the feasting hall with Evelyn had put an idea into Styx's head. Cagliostro's library would likely have a book that told of the sickness Eris was experiencing. Therefore, with Zoe off on some sort of adventure and Evelyn taking the day to watch Eris, Styx had left a note for Salem and left Darkstone. From the Black Port she sailed her ferry past a cabin and all the way to the Soul Falls. It was true. The mountains that safeguarded the stormlands were warded, but that didn't mean the reverse waterfall was. With the power of the souls in the river, the ferry began to follow the water upward. It was an interesting experience to travel up, but Styx had done it a few times before out of curiosity. She gripped the steering oar tightly, standing on the ornament on the back of the ferry, quickly shifting back to the deck as her humble boat made it to the top and slumped down into the water. The light quickly faded, visibility primarily coming in the form of constant flashes from the eternal storms. The grass blew back and forth with the strong winds. The River of Souls did not go very deep into the Stormlands, so Styx disembarked, shielding her dull grey eyes from the wind with her arm. She screamed as a lightning bolt struck the wet grass very close by, but peered closer as the scorched grass burned away into the form of an arrow. Styx had never gone very far away from the River of Souls while here, so this was a first. But she took a deep breath and began to follow the arrow. Styx slipped her other hand into the pockets of her trench coat. If the storm decided to become hostile, she could just use one of her own coins to return to her ferry. For what felt like hours, Styx hesitantly followed scorched arrows around the Stormlands until she lost sight of her ferry. Just when she was beginning to regret her decision, she saw what she was looking for. An ornate stone archway, erected in the middle of nowhere, with a simple wooden door to guard it.
The gate of knowledge.
As soon as Styx had pushed open the doors and stepped in, she went from soaking wet to dry in an instant and surrounded by bookshelves. Glancing behind her, the door was gone as well, her fingers wrapped round the gold coin in her pocket. She could still flee if she wanted. She sighed.
I should have brought slow plates.
She eeped as a voice echoed all around as if from the bookshelves themselves.
This is Cagliostro, Pompous Prick.
Oh, right. What brings you to my humble repository of wisdom, Watcher of the River? Styx started walking around slowly, nervously, looking around at all times.
My friend Eris, he isn't well.
The voice came from the shelves round her again, as Styx was kept on a narrow path forward. So you come here. Sickness is usually treated with medicine, Watcher. Styx nodded to herself.
I know that, but one can't offer medicine without knowing what they're treating.
Good answer. Styx felt something shift and within a blink found herself forced to make an abrupt right turn into a square room, still lined on all sides with bookshelves and brightly lit above by a single white warpstone lamp. A fireplace and two chairs sat at one end of the chamber. A hooded, masked man stood up from one of the chairs and turned to face her. Styx rubbed her arm nervously, a little afraid of the way the smiling white mask almost seemed to shift without shifting. If you will, tell me the symptoms your companion is expressing. Styx nodded.
She's, feverish. The light bothers her greatly. She has chills. Standing or moving at all really has become very hard for her.
Cagliostro nodded and held out his hand. Styx felt her eyelids disobey her and blink themselves, revealing that the pair now stood in a spacious bookshelf-lined hallway. Cagliostro was browsing through some of the books, idly dragging his finger along as he silently read titles. There are several afflictions that support those symptoms, Watcher. What the humans refer to as the flu, the plague, simple cold. Angels have warp blight, not to be confused with warp rot, of course. He chuckled. We demons can also suffer from warp blight, although it's rare. I do believe we suffer from a disease similar to the flu at times as well. So many afflictions, so many books. Styx jolted slightly as Cagliostro's head turned to look at her suddenly. I must apologize. If I am to properly aid the little demon, I must know who afflicted her. Demonic aspects can make situations rather unique. Styx hesitated.
I didn't tell you Eris was a demon.
The listener's mask almost seemed to grin brighter. Nor did you tell me she was afflicted by another. Whatever we speak of is for the benefit of your friend, Styx, I assure you. I know much, but not all. Please, tell me what happened. Styx stared down at her feet, still rubbing her arm.
I did this to her. I tried to heal her mind and I screwed it up.
She shuddered, feeling a cold hand raise her chin, making her look into the stupid mask. I know. I just wanted you to admit it. He was so close at this distance, he wouldn't even have time to react if she just find something, Watcher. You're staring at me quite intensely and your fingers are twitching. Cagliostro chuckled and stepped away, grabbing a book off a shelf seemingly at random and flipping through its pages. Yes. I see. Styx took a slow, careful step forward, her left hand slowly letting go of her arm. You know, Watcher, perhaps if you had taken a soul in the first place, it would not match her mind, ripping itself slowly apart. He laughed uncaringly. You've doomed her to a slow and agonizing death, Watcher. With a sudden noise of exertion, Styx lunged her left hand out, her eyes multicolored, and her hand igniting with a soul flame. Cagliostro easily grabbed her wrist and slammed it against the bookshelf, holding it there as a few of the text fell down on their heads. Some pelted Styx, but they all missed the listener. He continued to hold his previous book with one hand, seeming to read it. Styx feebly tried to pull away. It would be quite the blow to Salem's plans if I killed you yet. He chuckled. Letting you live works better in my favor. His head turned to look at her again. Answer this, Queen of Souls. Green or purple?
What?
Resort, thank you for the redeem. Here we are. Stand by, Zoe. 3, 2, 1. Ada, Ada.
Oh god, you do it too?
Oh, yes. Right, continuing on. Cagliostro suddenly let go, and Styx nearly fell backwards, her back bumping against a bookshelf that wasn't there before. She was trapped in a newly made dead end. Styx held her wrist as the soul flame snuffed out, but her eyes remained colored. Ah, I see. Salem hasn't taught you the other half of your powers. You've used this ability before, though. Cagliostro turned to face her, hands slipped into his sleeves. You see, with the green half of your little soul fire, you claim lives, yet the purple half, well, dead souls dwell in your river until they finally pass on. When that time comes, who knows? Certainly not you or I. Yet I pose a question. Instead of letting a soul fade away into eternity, he took a step forward and grabbed Styx's wrist again, pulling it close. Any attempts the Watcher made to pull away did not budge him in the slightest. What if you erase someone's soul entirely? I have a gift for you, Styx. The gift of truth. He let go again.
Just let me leave.
Styx plunged her hand into her pocket and grasped as she found none of her coins were there. Cagliostro held up both hands, several gold coins held between his fingers. I admire your skill. You're no craftsman, yet you created these coins all by yourself. I take it that other than summoning you, they allow a one-way rift back into your previous boat? Styx was a little terrified now and simply held her wrist, back pressed against the shelf behind her. Cagliostro closed his fingers, and with some simple movements the coins seemed to vanish. He took a book off a shelf, and Styx, despite her terror, looked at it in confusion. The title on the cover said, Evelyn indeed. He flipped through some pages. The former Saint of Prosperity has lived quite a life, caring for the angels affected by the Hidden War, serving as a general in the Ancient War. He chuckled as he flipped a page. Ah, yes, then succumbing to selfish desire and imbibing Warpstone, from which she killed several battle angels. Cagliostro chuckled. Were it not for Evelyn, I would not have the wonderful stories of Morgan and Callista to follow.
Callista? The Saint of Decay?
Sam, thank you so much for the lurk. Indeed. One of the only two survivors from Evelyn's Warpstone-fueled rampage. Styx hesitated for a moment. She was trapped and couldn't just get past Cagliostro if he didn't want her to. Besides, if that book held Evelyn's entire history... Yes, indeed, Watcher. I'm perfectly aware of the situation the Queen of Hell and the Saint of Corruption are hiding from you. He closed the book and turned to face Styx. You want to know, I take it?
I do.
Well, you already suspect, but the reality is far more heartbreaking. Another smug chuckle. The one you called your beloved betrayed you in your own home. Without her memories, she may have felt guilt over the matter, yet honestly, when was the last time she ever cared about you? Styx felt a pang in her chest. And yet that fallen companion of yours, ever more friendly and supportive. Yet she was the initiator. Far more beautiful as well. I'm unsurprised that the fox would go behind your back.
You're lying.
A purple flame ignited in Styx's hand. At its core, a tiny green flame. Cagliostro's mask seemed to grow its smile. What would I have to lie about? The truth is enough. She is a saint after all, and what are you? The lowly watcher. Last of the soul demons, simple lowborn of Mirka, destined to die. But you survived because of a plot Salem cooked up long ago. You know, if you had died as Nox had intended, I am sure your beloved would have fallen in love with the angel instead. Even now, she prefers the saint to you. You know it to be true, after all. Why is it that when one vanishes for longer than a couple of days, so too does the other, appearing only for a day at random?
Shut up.
Styx lunged forward, trying to grasp onto Cagliostro with the purple flame, but he flipped a coin from his hand, and as it hit her in the face, a rift opened. She fell through it and landed on the deck of her ferry, but it somehow ended up back in the outer circle, the soul current slowly carrying it back to her cabin. Styx laid down on the deck and hugged her knees, tears flowing down her face.
He's lying. He has to be. Not you too.
Chapter 27. Broken Mind, Shattered Soul. Eventually, Styx had calmed herself down enough that she could return to her cabin. Upon stepping within, she noted that from the state of the kitchen, someone had been making meals, messily but successfully. There were some crushed warpstone fragments around the kitchen and couch, but Evelyn wasn't here. She must have just left. Styx looked down, clenching her fist as she thought back to what Cagliostro said. She sighed and walked over to the bedroom Eris was in. The short, one-eyed demon was surprisingly sitting up. She looked over at Styx with a small smile.
Hello, Styx.
The Watcher pulled up a chair and sat down next to the bed, laying a hand on Eris's leg.
How are you feeling? Today, we feel a little better. We're definitely still sick. Salem and Calico were here earlier. Then Evelyn came and made us dinner. That's good too.
Styx's gray eyes widened.
Salem and Calico?
Eris nodded.
Yes. They spoke at length about you.
Eris smiled softly.
By the sounds of it, he trusts both of you.
Styx giggled nervously.
I'm glad it turned out alright.
Styx looked at Eris closely, noticing the faint drops of sweat that dripped off the small demon's face. If he had taken a soul in the first place, it would not match her mind. Styx hesitated and looked down at her left hand.
Eris, I'm really sorry about what happened.
She looked up, feeling Eris grip her other hand and looked up.
Styx, we don't blame you. No part of her fractured mind.
Eris tapped the side of her own head, then held a closed fist to her chest.
Nor,
She struggled for a moment.
nor I.
Eris cleared her throat.
We asked, after all.
Styx looked away for a moment.
I'm sorry that I've left you in Evan Calico's care and not... Hey.
Styx looked back to the girl.
Yeah?
Eris reached out and pressed her pointer finger against Styx's nose.
We understand the importance of what Salem and you are doing. You're busy. Besides, we're just a little sick. We're not gonna die or anything.
Styx's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't tell her. Styx didn't even know how long it took her soul to rip away into nothing. She was snapped out of her thoughts by Eris.
Styx, we had a question we've been meaning to ask. Shoot.
It was Eris's turn to look away for a moment.
Styx. Wait, no. We remember quite far back. No. Centuries ago, you seemed happier. Yet, lately you've been sadder. And especially today, we noticed you've been crying. You alright?
Styx patted Eris's head and stood up with a small smile.
I'm fine, Eris. I promise. I should go back to Darkstone.
Styx hesitated for a moment until Eris gently pushed her away.
Calico will be back soon. We'll be okay by ourselves for a little bit.
The small demon stood up, albeit shakily.
We're able to stand again, so it's not as if we're bedridden at the moment.
Styx felt tears start to well up behind her eyes again. She bent down and hugged Eris tightly.
I'm still so sorry I screwed up.
Eris hugged her back, then returned to the previous kindness, patting Styx on the head between her wolf ears.
We'll be okay, Styx. If all the voices in our head are in agreement, then surely it must be true.
Eris managed to grin.
And you know how our voices like to argue.
Styx wiped her eyes and smiled a little.
You're right.
They broke the hug and separated.
I'll come see you again in a few days, Eris. Please don't exert yourself. You won't. You have all of our words.
Styx laid in her ferry, head propped against the mast and hands clasped over her stomach. The souls had reversed the river's current, taking it back upriver away from the cabin. Here on the river, despite everything, was one of the places Styx felt safe and at ease. It let her think more clearly. She could be alone here. A puddle of shadow manifested, and Salem rose out of it. Styx sighed. She used to be able to be alone here. The Watcher pushed herself into a sitting position as Salem knelt and laid out a small pile of contracts. My queen, Ignis found another denizen of Zakko, and Lilith brought some from the fallen of Melisco. Also, he tapped one, Alana has decided to pledge her service to you. Styx nodded slowly and reached out, slowly and wordlessly igniting each with green flame and claiming them. Salem stood and clasped his hands in front of him. What troubles you, my queen? Styx shook her head slightly and pulled her legs up, hugging her knees.
Cagliostro told me that her soul is shattered and that she'll die a slow, agonizing death. I spoke to her for a little while. I almost don't believe him, because she sort of seems better, but...
Have you considered claiming her soul and healing her as you healed Lera? Styx hesitated.
I did think about it, but Lara was different, Salem. She was wounded physically. Eris is wounded spiritually, and I was the one that did it to her.
Salem nodded slowly. He pushed his hat up slightly, then again allowing his actual face to be seen. My queen. Styx buried her head in her knees.
Stop, Salem. I am no queen. I'm just a watcher. A failure that you should have killed along with the rest of Mirkur. You should find someone else to take the obsidian throne.
She gasped as Salem forcefully pulled her arms away from her knees, then gently held her right hand, pressing his right over the top of with his left Let me try that again. She gasped as Salem forcefully pulled her arms away from her knees, then gently held her right hand, pressing his right over the top with his left beneath. You're right. You aren't a queen. Not yet. That won't necessarily be true until after you're on the throne, but that does not mean you are a failure. I didn't choose you because of your aspect, Styx. I chose you because your personality is the best fit for what hell needs in a ruler. As the last of the soul demons, it was simply a welcome coincidence. You cannot let a single mistake destroy your confidence and undo all we have done until now. Salem let go of her hand and stood up, crossing his arms, his hat shrouding his face again. My queen, my actions are planned and measured for months on end if need be. Every word I say, every step I take, I have thought about heavily. What new routes into the future will I open with what I do next? He crouched down and looked into Styx's grey eyes. In the beginning, I was not as careful as I am now. If anyone should be blamed for Edis's current condition, it is me. I did not expect a mere child to be such a strong fighter. I grew careless and hostile, and I struck her with my sword. Styx's eyes widened. All this time she had assumed Edis was simply short like Alana. Neither demon was that much taller than Salem, but the revelation that Edis was... Styx's breathing grew heavier. My queen? Styx shook her head quickly and cleared her throat.
I'll be fine.
My queen, listen and listen well, because I feel this will help you for many centuries to come. Salem cleared his throat. See everyone you know as both your enemy and your friend. Fight every battle all at once in your mind. Anything that could happen already is happening all at once. If you remember that, nothing can ever surprise you, because you'll have seen it before. Salem bowed. I must go, else Nox begins questioning my absence again. Salem visibly hesitated before reaching out and patting Styx's shoulder. Believe me when I say that Edis will be okay. Whether you claim her soul or not, we will find a way to help her. I stake my life on that promise. Styx nodded slowly. May our souls endure. Salem stopped, deciding it better to give Styx some time. His eyebrow raised and he smiled slightly as he melted into a shadow puddle as Styx finished the phrase.
May the river overflow with those that accept it.
Chapter 28. Mirkur. Styx was shaken awake to find her boat had beached itself in the eternal forest again. She looked up groggily to find who was assaulting her, and as her eyes came into focus, she first noted a rotted feather fall onto the deck. She looked up.
Evelyn?
The corrupted angel smiled.
Hey.
She crushed an orange warpstone.
I was flying around collecting some goodies, and I saw you were here sleeping. I did so we should come out here again for another try to find your village, so... You want to?
The first thing that came into Styx's mind was a no. Cagliostro's words were still fresh in her mind, and she didn't want to look at the fallen, but she relented. Maybe she could find something in Mirkur that would help Edis.
Sure, yeah. Don't forget your scythe.
Styx looked behind her as Evelyn hopped off the boat onto the riverbank. What was Soul Blight doing here? She'd left it at Darkstone. Styx sighed and picked it up before following after Evelyn. The journey was more silent this time around, interrupted mostly by the sound of Evelyn crushing warp stones. After her orange one, she downgraded back to greens. Every so often, Cagliostro's words would return violently into Styx's mind. How Evelyn was far more beautiful, the way Zoe cared more about Evelyn than her. Cagliostro wasn't wrong. The way Evelyn's curly red hair cascaded down her back, her soft face, those piercing yellow eyes, a tall, shapely figure. Styx looked down at herself. The Watcher was tall as well, maybe only an inch taller than Evelyn, yet flat as a board. Her grey hair was a bit shorter than Evelyn's, but not by much. Styx liked to think the wolf ears that protruded out of the top of her head were kind of cute, but that wasn't much. Unless she was using her powers, her eyes were dull and ugly grey. And to mention the fact that she was always cold to the touch. She was sure Evelyn was quite warm, a much better person to cuddle up against. No wonder Zoe picked Evelyn over her.
Styx.
The Watcher jolted and looked up. Evelyn pointed at a small cabin visible through the trees.
Isn't that your cabin? Same style, at least.
They both walked a bit closer and gasped at the same time. There were far more than just one cabin. There were many.
I think we found Mirker.
The village was in a state of overgrowth, yet the only damage was caused by time and erosion. All of the houses seemed to be variations on Styx's moderately sized dark wood cabin. A large wooden structure in the center of the village seemed to be a sort of town hall. A giant fire pit sat in front of the town hall, creating a sort of gathering area. Evelyn shuddered and hugged herself.
Cold as fuck here.
Styx walked up next to her, looking round.
Deserted too.
Of course it was. Salem had said he'd basically massacred the village. Although the reputation the Eternal Forest held, Styx was moderately surprised no bandits had decided to take up residence here.
Let's take a quick look around and get the hell out of here. Normal Angel's wings are pretty warm, but since my fucking feathers are rotted, they're cold.
Despite that, she still wrapped her wings around herself. Styx side-glanced Evelyn for a moment.
The warmest person I can think of, Zoe.
She had been watching Evelyn crush Warpstone for their entire trip. The Fallen was likely very deeply under the influence, even if she didn't seem that way at the moment. And as if to prove Styx's point, Evelyn blurted.
I'm happy to have felt that warmth.
Styx hesitated.
What was it like?
Evelyn looked at her, confused.
What was what like?
A mean idea came into Styx's head.
When you hugged her?
Evelyn jolted slightly.
Oh, right. Well, it was just really warm, you know? So it gives off a lot of body heat.
The pair started walking and entered the town hall. Styx faked a smile and walked over to a desk and rooting around in the drawers, finding nothing of interest.
So, did you like it? Kissing her? I mean, I guess.
Evelyn crushed another warpstone, not yet processing the trap she had fallen into. Styx clenched her fist, the soul flame igniting in her left hand. Luckily, her hand was hidden behind the desk. Styx clenched her eyes shut tightly and snuffed out the flame. Evelyn was oblivious to the flame, but had noticed the conflict on Styx's face. She walked over, reaching out slightly.
You okay?
Styx looked up. Her emotions bubbling below the surface allowed her to force out a couple of tears.
Tell me the truth. You and Zoe go behind my back?
Evelyn gritted her teeth for a moment and sighed, crossing her arms and turning away.
Okay. We may have had a little fun, but in both our defenses, I was blackout stoned and she was drunker than I had ever seen her. She drank an entire barrel of meat.
As Evelyn turned back round, the first thing she noticed was the purple and green of Styx's eyes. In the next moment, Soulblight's handle was shoved against her throat, holding her against the wall.
I want the truth, Evelyn.
Oh, good morning, Lord Rexworth. Good morning, Koski Rand. Welcome in. The Fallen choked a bit until Styx relented enough to allow her to speak.
I already told you the truth. What do you want? Every fucking detail?
She was silenced by the handle shoving hard against her throat again.
Tell me this. Do you love her? Of course not. You're her girlfriend.
Styx closed her mismatched eyes for a moment before opening them again.
I thought we were friends, Evelyn. I thought I could rely on you. Zoe doesn't care about me. Everything she's been doing lately was remorse because she stabbed me.
Styx took a step back, allowing Evelyn to get off the wall. Styx turned slightly away, gripping Soulblight tightly with her right hand.
Is our friendship fake too? Are you friends with me out of guilt? Styx.
The sudden determination in Evelyn's voice caused Styx to turn her head.
What? If our friendship were fake, would I do this?
Evelyn placed her hand swiftly on Styx's cheeks, pulled her close, and kissed her deeply on the lips. They stood there for a few moments, Styx's eyes reverting back to grey as she stood, too shocked to reciprocate or resist. After a few moments, Evelyn pulled away, and they both breathed heavily.
You.
Evelyn smiled sheepishly. Styx took a step back and with rapid speed swung her scythe.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Evelyn ducked and covered her head. She heard the scythe impact flesh but didn't feel anything. She slowly opened her eyes and stood back up, looking to her side to see a shadowy demon. Styx pulled out her scythe blade and folded it back up as the assassin fell to their knees, bleeding profusely. Styx grabbed the demonic man's collar and pulled him back to his feet. Her eyes regained color as a purple flame ignited her left hand.
Who sent you?
Haven't seen you for a while. Quite busy these few weeks, so I have exams I have to attend to these few weeks. Well, best of luck with the exams, Koski. Best of luck to you. Remember, you got this. The shadow demon screamed in agony as the purple flame seemed to intensify.
Tick tock. Talk.
The demon snarled but began to scream again after a few seconds. Evelyn watched, stunned.
Talk and maybe get out of this with half a soul.
The man yelled loudly for a few moments before relenting. Argos, the Saint of Blades!
Who is your target?
You!
Good to know.
The purple flame intensified again, and the man's face began to scorch as flesh bubbled and melted rapidly. Styx tossed him to the side as the screaming came to an abrupt halt. Then she raised a scythe/bodish over her head, bringing it down forcefully and severing the skull from the twitching, soulless husk, putting it out of its misery. Her eyes faded to grey again, and she stood up, breathing heavily.
Holy shit, Styx.
The Watcher looked away. It was almost like a cruel jest by the gods with what happened next. The wall Evelyn was sitting against blasted open as a huge fist, covered in icy scales, punched through the wall and grabbed the fallen. The loudest sound was not Evelyn's scream, but that of the bones of her wing shattered as the fingers wrapped around her and pulled her through.
Evelyn.
Styx slipped out of the hole and found herself face to face with the most likely reason no bandits had taken up residence in Mirka. A frost ogre. Styx sighed, pressing the button on her side to unfurl the blade as color returned to her eyes once more.
Let down the angel. I'm not done with her yet.
With a roar, the ogre attempted to stomp on her, but Styx ran forward, raising her scythe and dragging its blade along the bottom of the beast's foot, forcing it to step back and roar again. It threw Evelyn at full force down at the town hall, where her impact dented the stone wall before she dropped unceremoniously to the ground. The 10-foot-tall beast grabbed the tree, ripping it effortlessly from the ground, and swung it at Styx, who barely managed to dive out of the way. As she got back to her feet, her lack of combat knowledge was quickly becoming apparent. She briefly considered a gun, but her flintlock's magic bullets had no hope of penetrating the ice armor of the creature. She looked up at the creature as it raised its foot for another stomp and smiled sadly.
Oh, Salem, I failed.
A wheezy laugh came from behind her, followed by metal clanking loudly as a metal and burlap puppet lunged forward, metal claws digging easily into the ice. The ogre stepped back, angrily attempting to slap the demon off its arm, but with a leap, Phobos scaled to the top of the ogre's head and dug in at its metal feet. Shadowy arms sprouted from the demonic orb at Phobos's core and gripped the ogre's head, starting to spin Phobos around in circles swiftly, drilling his metal feet into the monster's skull. The monster roared in intense pain and began to step backwards, desperately trying to remove Phobos, but the Saint of Fear's metallic claws were stronger, metal arms impaling the palms of the ogre every time it attempted to remove him. After a few moments, Phobos launched himself upward as the ogre suddenly fell backwards. Dust and dirt was kicked up as the ogre fell on one of the cabins. Styx slowly stood as two red pinpricks gazed at her through the dust. As it cleared, Phobos stood up straight on his metal limbs, rising taller than Styx. He bowed, pulling a cracked skull out of the burlap covering his head and back. The skull's jaw began to move.
Did well, my queen.
Styx hesitated for a few moments.
You...
Phobos bent down until his head was far lower than Styx. She hesitantly reached out, then patted the metal puppet's head.
You did very well, Phobos. Were you following us?
The puppet wheezed.
Eternal Forest. My home. No one will harm Queen in my home.
Styx slowly nodded.
Thank you.
Another wheezy laugh emanated from the puppet.
Queen has many things, yet no guard for the body.
Styx understood what he was saying.
If you're volunteering, then I'll accept you as my bodyguard.
The puppet laughed loudly with much wheezing, and the demonic orb at its core shivered with glee.
Serve well. Not interfere.
Phobos's wheezy and broken way of speaking took upon a guttural and deep voice, for a second speaking perfectly.
Scarecrow is honored.
Styx was slightly unnerved, but she sighed.
We should go home.
She remembered the fallen.
Everyone?
Styx ran over and slipped down onto her knees next to the Saint of Corruption. Evelyn had managed to push herself to a slight sitting position and gave a weak thumbs up.
Gonna take more than that to kill me, Styx.
She coughed up some blood.
He broke some ribs, though. How long do you think it'll take to regenerate all this?
She coughed up more blood.
Man, it's hard to breathe.
Styx hesitated.
You know, before I die, there's something I want to tell you. I don't mind all this stuff of yours as long as you're...
Styx pressed a finger to her lips.
Shut up for a second, please.
Styx was terrified. She'd already broken Edis's soul. What if she broke Evelyn's too? But these wounds were really bad. Styx gripped Evelyn's cheek and the soul flame ignited, dominantly green. She had no choice. Evelyn gently grasped her wrist and smiled slightly. She gasped slightly as she felt her body healing rapidly. As the healing finished, and the flame snuffed out. Styx's eyes returned to grey. Evelyn pouted for a second, then wrapped her arms and newly healed wings around the Watcher.
Styx, I want to tell you something else.
The Watcher patted Evelyn's back a couple of times, then gently pulled herself out of the hug. Evelyn gripped her shoulders.
Styx, I love you. I've loved you for a long time, but I was afraid to tell you because of Zoe.
Styx's eyes widened a bit.
You love me?
Evelyn nodded quickly, then stood up and held out her hand to help Styx up.
I'm not asking you to love me back, but when you asked if our friendship was born out of guilt, I figured it's time I admitted my feelings.
Evelyn looked at Phobos, who sat on the ground nearby, wheezing quietly. He tilted his head sideways at Evelyn's gaze.
And, hey, maybe you'll let me in and help you out with...
She giggled nervously.
I mean, you have Phobos here helping you. He's calling you queen. You got me hella curious.
Styx was silent for a few moments. Evelyn didn't seem to realize that Styx had claimed her soul to heal her. She couldn't explain why, but she decided not to mention it. She exhaled softly and managed to smile slightly.
Can you stretch and pending hydrate, Cassie? Oh, R instead. Yeah, change it up, I see.
Nicer.
I could definitely use a friend right now. This is a lot.
Evelyn nodded in affirmation.
Let's get back to Darkstone. Can, Phobos guide us out? I'm lost.
Zaki Lucky 07, welcome in. Phobos let out a wheezy laugh.
Easy, fine. This way.
Phobos walked hunched over on two legs, dragging his metal arms along, sometimes raising them to move branches out of the way, sometimes letting his true self sprout tendrils to move them instead. Styx and Evelyn walked silently next to each other for a short distance before Evelyn reached out and grasped Styx's hand. The Watcher did not resist. She was confused and unsure of herself, and Evelyn's confession was not doing anything to help with that. This would take some figuring out, but at least Evelyn had said she didn't need to love her back. That was a bit of stress off the mind. Styx took a deep breath. She had something else to focus on. Namely, that demon assassin sent by Argos to kill her. She looked at her left hand, its fingers wrapped around Soul Blight's hilt. What would it be like to have the legendary Saint of Blades with her, instead of against her? Chapter 29. A Queen's Plan. Instead of using a rift to return immediately to the Black Port, Styx decided she wanted to sail back to Hell's Gate. It would give her time to think. Styx sat by the steering oar, head propped on her hands. Evelyn had suddenly become very shy and sat against the mast, watching the water, but sometimes glancing at Styx. Phobos had perched himself on the front of the boat, swaying slightly with its motion. Styx clenched her left fist and made a slight tugging motion, picturing a specific individual in her mind. A moment later, Sailor manifested aboard the deck and knelt. "You summoned me, my queen." Evelyn looked at Salem in disgust for a moment before her eyes widened.
Damn, Styx, you got Salem wrapped around your finger too?
Salem ignored the fallen. Styx took a deep breath.
Evelyn and I found my village. An assassin attacked us.
Styx glanced at Evelyn, who gave a soft smile and shrugged.
I erased his soul, but before I did, I got him to tell me he was hired by Argos.
Salem stood and rubbed his chin. I see. It's likely he somehow figured out that Letta's disappearance is connected to you. I'm unsure as to how, though. Salem peered at Styx for a moment. You've a gleam in your eye, my queen. Do you already have an idea of how to deal with him? Styx hesitated, looking at Evelyn again. The angel smirked.
I already told you I don't care about any of the soul stuff, Sticks. You can talk freely. Besides, I did say I wanted to help out, didn't I?
Styx nodded and looked back to Salem, sitting up straighter.
I was thinking of going to heaven and confronting him, and try to claim his soul.
Evelyn's nonchalance turned to surprise.
Are you insane? This is what I do. No.
Evelyn stood up.
Not that part, the other part. Going to heaven and challenging the Saint of Blades? Not to mention if Petra finds out a greater demon is wandering around in heaven, the entire angelic army will be dogpiling your corpse.
Perhaps, corrupted one. However, if we went to the Dark Steps, that risk is significantly lower. Styx fidgeted with her hands for a few moments before looking at Salem again.
How will going to the steps help me get to Argos?
You were sent there once. He can be sent there again. Leave that part to me, my queen. Evelyn was skeptical.
He's hunting for Laura. You'll have to find him first.
Salem turned to the angel. Correct. However, he will not disobey a direct order from his lord. Styx gave a slight nod.
We'll wait in the steps then.
At the sound of a wheeze, Salem turned to see Phobos looking at him from the front of the boat. Salem sighed and chuckled. I was wondering where you disappeared to, Phobos. Your choice to up and leave in the middle of the meeting really had Nox wondering.
Danger became...
Salem crossed his arms. The Dark Saints lose another of their members, then. Take good care of her, Phobos.
I'm here too, you short fuck.
Salem looked up at her and smirked. I know, Evelyn, but I already know you'll do your best. Evelyn blushed and looked away from Salem and Styx as the Saint of Madness melted back into the shadows. Most of the boat ride turned to idle chatter for a bit until Evelyn decided to speak her mind. She moved herself from the mast over to Styx's side.
I was wondering, how do you intend to deal with Argos exactly? With Soul Blight in my powers, what else would I use?
Evelyn nodded slowly.
Right. The Scythe Bardiche hybrid that you barely know how to use, and the Flame and Hand trick that requires you to get in shaking distance. Versus the legendary Saint of Blades. I don't see where this could go wrong.
Evelyn threw a green warpstone into the river, causing Styx to raise an eyebrow. The angel hadn't crushed any since they left Mirka.
Phobos will help. Won't you, Phobos?
The metal puppet's head nodded enthusiastically. Styx couldn't help but smile a little.
See?
Evelyn sighed.
Argos is a combat master, Styx. He has 3 swords. 1 for killing angels, 1 for killing humans, 1 for killing demons. And he's very skilled at dual wielding. Not even Zoe could stand much of a chance against him in a one-on-one.
Styx sighed.
You have a point.
With an idle flex of her finger, Styx perked up, remembering one soul she had dominion over.
I have a trump card, though.
They looked at each other.
Wanna enlighten me?
Styx had a ghost of a smile on her face.
I have the one person he wants to see most.
Cagliostro pulled a book down from one of his innumerable shelves and cracked it open, reading it idly. When suddenly the bookshelves began to shudder on their own and suddenly move around rapidly, creating a narrow hallway, Cagliostro glanced up and chuckled before turning around the only pathway he was allotted. At the end stood the Queen of Hell, holding one of his black books. Ah, thank you, my queen. If I may ask, which book is it that you recovered? Zoe looked down at the cover for a moment.
The Chronodex. What's that shitty names for these things?
She teleported forward and held it out. Cagliostro put his original book down and reached out for it. He took it reverently and admired the cover for a moment before cracking it open and browsing a few pages. I'm glad to see it unharmed.
So, about that favorite...
Cagliostro spoke a word from the codex. Frista. At first, time seemed to stop, and Cagliostro let out a contented sigh. Thank you for returning this to me, Fox. I'll make sure you become a wonderful statue for my disciples. Cagliostro turned away and held out his hand to shift his labyrinthine library. The bookshelf shuddered violently, but did not move. Beneath his mask, he frowned.
Somehow I knew you were gonna betray me. Or try to, anyway.
The listener quickly turned just in time to receive Zoe's fist directly into his mask, cracking it in half. He covered his face and fell to his knees with an ear-piercing and demonic scream. Zoe kneed him in the face and knocked him onto his back, manifesting Misery's end in her hands and raising it above her head, blade pointed downward. Wait! Zoe paused and sighed, lowering the sword.
What now?
Cagliostro reached into his robes, groping around as if he were blind, still keeping his face covered, and pulled out a new mask, putting it on and slowly standing back to his feet. I still owe you a favor, do I not? And if you return more of my books, I'll owe you more favors. See reason, my queen. Despite what had just happened, the listener still spoke calmly, slipping his hands into his sleeves. Zoe regarded him coldly for a few moments.
I want information. Now.
Cagliostro nodded once.
Everyone at the guild is acting odd. Even Asbestos is worried. That man doesn't worry about anything. What's going on?
Their souls belong to the new queen, of course. Zoe prepared to swing her sword until Cagliostro pleadingly held out its hands. It is a scheme of Salem, Saint of Madness. He has sought out a new queen to take your throne. Zoe lowered her blade, raising an eyebrow.
You say it like Nox has nothing to do with it this time.
That would be because he doesn't. Salem is acting independently. Most of the Dark Saints have already turned against Nox, and are assisting Salem and this new queen he is teaching. Zoe smirked with a bit of a sinister look in her eyes.
Huh. Interesting. You know who it is that Salem's trying to replace me with?
Cagliostro was silent for a few moments.
I'd start talking, Cag. I'd hate to take apart your library piece by piece.
No idea, my queen. I can find out if you like.
Yes. Consider that the favor I ask of you. I want an identity as soon as I return. The next book I bring you, though, if you try and use it on me, I may just have to end your misery.
Zoe grinned sadistically before teleporting. Alone again, Cagliostro wiped a bead of sweat off his wooden mask and sighed. Can't believe I'm saying this. Perhaps Salem is justified in replacing her. The bookshelves finally shifted and Cagliostro walked out onto a balcony, overseeing a grand library with the gigantic windows that oversaw the stormlands. Below the balcony, hundreds of individuals, robed and masked like Cagliostro, walked about, sorting and reading books. Disciples, bring me historic text regarding the Queen of Hell. No time to dawdle now. Cagliostro clapped his hands twice before the shelves shifted again, once again hiding him away within the safety of his labyrinth. Alone, he removed his mask, the shadows beneath his hood dispersing and revealing the handsome, yellow-eyed, clean-shaven face of Cagliostro. The only demonic feature he possessed was a stitched, closed wound on his forehead, where a multitude of yellow orb-like eyes peered outward. I should not be surprised the Queen of Hell would return to her old ways once her memories returned. He scoffed and grabbed a book off a shelf, cracking it open and reading idly. And that brings us to chapter 30, titled Callista, Saint of Decay. I think right here would probably be a good time to end our readings. We can pick this up later next week, same time. Does that sound good, Zoe?
Sounds good to me.
All right. And with that, we'll go ahead and find someone to raid. Let's see here. Who do we have online?
I'm gonna keep streaming myself, but
Oh, you're gonna keep at it. Okay.
yeah, I did
All
have a
right
lot
then.
of fun reading.
Then I will send everyone over to you. So let's do that.
How about a short retrospective before I go play something else? What do you think so far? Any questions you wanna ask? Any thoughts?
I like this. This is getting more and more interesting as it goes on. You know, it's you. This was a good twist that we found tonight, where Cagliostro he knows what's going on. He's a smart lad. He knows what's going on, and I don't know. It's as though with that knowledge, you would think he could do something about it all. You would think that with all of those disciples, he could mount some sort of resistance, and yet he opts for the indirect approach. He opts instead to
definitely
let Salem.
scheming.
Yes, he's got his own agenda with all of this.
Trust me, Salem's not the only one scheming.
Hmm. But I think it's so brilliant, the layers and everything that you've added here. Zoe, I probably sound like a broken record here, but you really are a brilliant writer, and this is excellent work. Really, I mean this is something that needs to be turned into a manga, needs to be turned into a mini series of some kind.
Like, could you imagine this animated or in like a comic format?
That would be absolutely incredible. And you know something? I think between the two of us, excuse me, I had to clear my throat there. I think between the two of us, I think we know enough people that they probably know someone that can get something like that done. So I would encourage you. After this is all done, after this reading is completed, don't let it stop there. Find people who can make this something that goes beyond words on a page. People who can create visuals, who can create concept art of each and every one of these characters. Just please don't stop. You've got something quite wonderful here, and I really hope that it becomes something of a franchise, or just the first of many things that you find yourself enjoying success on the level of the George R. Martins and the Diana Gabaldons of the world. These best-selling authors that are so used to hearing their names in popular culture. I do hope that we see Zoe the Demon Fox up there, and that we see the realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls, become something quite big, because it deserves to, because it's damn good.
I've got other books in works too.
Well, keep at it. Don't stop. You're doing wonderfully here, just with this alone. I know you've got many more in you. So please, don't stop. Whatever you do.
I think you'll really
Please
enjoy
keep
Black Hole when I actually finish book 1.
Yeah. No, I can't wait to read it. Really, this is a highlight of my week. It really is, being able to do this reading.
The highlight of my week too. We get to sharing something that I made all by myself, and
that
like
really makes
it's very much different from just like playing a game and talking over it. It's something I did this. I made this.
Yes, this is something creative and wonderful and original that people are crying out for these days, and the type of unique content that we need to see from more VTubers and content creators. Please, don't stop. Don't give up. Keep going. And I suppose that would be the appropriate parting words for tonight for everybody else who's listening and watching and in both of our chats. If there's something, a dream in your heart, a vision in your mind, a project you've been working on for some time, don't give up on it. Keep pushing through, keep working at it. But whatever you do, don't give up and don't stop. Because you should never try to hide your light from the world.
It's a
And
quote,
whatever it is.
a meme. Don't let your dreams be dreams. That's...
What's that?
Don't let your dreams be dreams. Or
Yeah.
even the more meme version, don't let your memes be dreams. Both of those definitely apply to me writing this. It took me 2 years, but
Yes.
here we are.
You know, I can see a lot of hard work. 2 years of hard work in each and every word. And it's lovely. I really enjoy reading this. So
I'm happy you do. It makes me really, really happy.
yes. No, this is excellent, as I said. I really do mean that. This is excellent. So, chat, you too. Keep working at it. Don't give up. Whatever you have to do to make your dream, your vision manifest into reality, do it. Because it's worth it.
Ask for help if
And
you
so-
need to.
Yes. Yes. Don't be afraid to seek out assistance. There's no shame in it. No one will think any lesser of you. In fact, they'll think better of you for that. Right. So, on that note, I'm going to set up the raid and raid everybody over into your channel, Zoe. And we'll I'll see everybody Saturday for the big transatlantic collab between North American and UK EU members of Project Astadia as we play 100% orange juice and party animals and have ourselves a time. And
those sound fun.
then later on in that evening, join me for another live reading ASMR with my colleagues from Project Astadia as we reread and re-record our performances of a fan fiction work called Reality's Doorways, which is turned out to be quite an excellent work in and of itself. So yes, join us for that. That's all Saturday, and we're going to get that started around, I believe, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 or 10. Just follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Lord Rexworth, or just @Lord Rexworth, all one word on Twitter. Right. So off we go to into Zoe's channel. I'll see everybody Saturday. I'm Lord Rexworth, wishing you all the best, and God bless.
Thank you for the raid, comrade.
You are most welcome.
Maybe
Right.
after we finish my book, we could like read something else together.
Yes. No, I'd like that very much. Well, we are going to be. I do know we are going to be working at this for quite some time more. We are at. Oh, hey, look at that! We managed to make it to the halfway point.
We got
So
40
about-
more chapters to go.
Yeah, page 106 of 209. So good progress, even for a shorter stream tonight. But yeah, that's no, I would love that. Just let me know what you'd be interested in doing some reading for, and I'll be there with bells
Whatever
on.
you're interested in, I'll read a book. I got a few visual novels in my Steam library.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that would, I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. Yeah. Right. So I think that'll be the end of me, before my voice gives out. So I will, I'll leave you to it. But, this was fun, Zoe. We'll pick this up next week.
Yep. I look forward
All
to it.
right. Take care.
Alright, so since I'm not reading anymore, also, Cassie, note this down. We're on chapter 30, because we keep forgetting. Alright, cool. Okay.